welcome to my new channel, and today I'm going to be talking about my revert story. Please bear with this. What am I saying? Please cut me some slack because I'm kind of nervous and I'm probably going to be saying a lot, but this is going to be a new channel that I've wanting to do for many years. I just never had the courage to really do it. So I'm going to be talking about probably some controversial topics within the Ummah and just within society in general. So let's get right into it. I came from a predominantly agnostic family. My dad was Shia. He stopped practicing just because of what he witnessed back home in Iran. And my mom was not a practicing Catholic. She reverted to Islam, alhamdulillah, but she never practiced, so they kind of lost their way. So for me, I was never really brought up with any knowledge on God, any knowledge on religion. My parents just let me decide that on my own if I wanted to. So when I was in grade 9, this is when I started my journey to spirituality, I guess if you want to say. I started learning about Christianity and Judaism, and I didn't really enjoy what I read, and I found many contradictions within it, so I decided to move on, just because I wanted to learn about perspective, and I thought that I had enough to understand why people convert to Judaism, Christianity, why people are born into it, like their perspective on life. So in grade 11, this is when I first started to learn about Islam, and alhamdulillah, as soon as I opened the Quran, I met my best friend, and she has been my best friend ever since. She's been the biggest influence on me with Islam. She taught me many things about Islam, and we talked about very controversial topics like politics, just everything. So alhamdulillah for that. She really showed me the way, in the sense that I found a new peace within myself, learning about Islam, and a lot of things that happened in my life coincided with Islam, with dreams, bad dreams especially, just thoughts that I had, things that I saw in life. So it took me about 2 years to really accept this, and I was going to revert 2 years later, but I felt like I didn't know enough about Islam, so I decided not to, just because I wanted to know 100% about everything. Even though that's never possible, and I now know this. My journey to Islam took about 6 years, but alhamdulillah, I've come here now. After I moved about 2 years later, from meeting my best friend, I went to university. And this is where I really lost myself. So I started really getting super depressed, just seeing how everyone was in university and how there was really no depth or no substance to it. It was just everyone was go, and then when they had time to themselves, they would go and party, they would go and be promiscuous. So my vice was smoking. I smoked a lot of pot. And with this, I had a lot of, I guess you can say, bad trips. I experienced a lot of things. I would hallucinate, I would hear things, and this really got me in a bad slump. I don't know exactly how to explain it properly without sounding completely crazy, but this is the major push for me of why I went back to Islam. And without that, I feel like I would never have been where I am today. So alhamdulillah for that, and I'm so thankful, because I know not a lot of people, when they smoke pot, that they get bad trips. It's not a very common thing. Even though I've tried many different strains and yada yada, I've heard all of it. People think that I just had it, that I was laced. But I don't believe that, but that's a topic for another time. So when I moved back home in the summer, I was really into learning about Islam again. I watched a bunch of videos, I researched a lot, just getting back into it because I forgot so much over a year, because I wasn't around it and because I lost myself. But alhamdulillah, I was going to revert again, but I never went through with it. So that summer when I came back home, I experienced a very happy me. I was always happy. I never saw the bad in anything. And this was an extreme compared to what I experienced when I was in university, because when I was in university, I just saw the bad in everything. And I was highly depressed, as I mentioned before. And it really crippled me because of it. So people around me were kind of confused and they didn't understand why I was so happy, and I felt that I was alone in a sense, and I started learning about other religions. I got into Buddhism, I got into Taoism, and a bunch more, just because I wanted to know more about other religions before I really decided what I wanted to be, in a sense, because religion was and is a very taboo thing in society. Someone who's religious is kind of looked down upon compared to people who aren't. So I learned about Buddhism and Taoism greatly. Alan Watts was my biggest influence, and he still is. He's an amazing philosopher. But I kind of lost my way with Islam, and how do I say? It kind of dragged me away from it. I started experiencing really bad dreams again, and my intuition was going down. I wasn't as strong as I used to be, and I was actually losing. So that summer when I came back home, I experienced a very happy me. I was always happy. I never saw the bad in anything. And this was an extreme compared to what I experienced when I was in university, because when I was in university, I just saw the bad in everything. And I was highly depressed, as I mentioned before. And it really crippled me because of it. So people around me were kind of confused and they didn't understand why I was so happy, and I felt that I was alone in a sense, and I started learning about other religions. I got into Buddhism, I got into Taoism, and a bunch more, just because I wanted to know more about other religions before I really decided what I wanted to be, in a sense, because religion was and is a very taboo thing in society. Someone who's religious is kind of looked down upon compared to people who aren't. So I learned about Buddhism and Taoism greatly. Alan Watts was my biggest influence, and he still is. He's an amazing philosopher. But I kind of lost my way with Islam, and how do I say? It kind of dragged me away from it. I started experiencing really bad dreams again, and my intuition was going down. I wasn't as strong as I used to be, and I was actually losing my ability to even think properly because I was overly happy. But alhamdulillah, one day I had a massive headache when I was with my friend, and I started crying out of nowhere. And this is going from about 10 months after the summer. And I was like bawling my eyes out. This was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And I just had this random thought, play a recitation. So I did. I played it on my phone, and my headache went away. So I decided the next day that I need to go to a masjid, which I did, and alhamdulillah, I met this revert brother, and we went for dinner with one of my friends, and I talked to them. There was 3 of them, they were all reverts. We talked for about 3 hours at dinner, and I decided that's it. I need to revert. I've been wanting to revert for many years and I never did it, and I always slip. Right after I want to revert, I become way worse than I ever have, and I didn't want to go through that again because I knew that Islam is the truth, and I know so much about it, and I just thought, like, why do I keep on stopping myself? Obviously it's because of Shaitan, and I know this now. So the next day I decided that I'm going to go see my best friend who lived in London, the one that showed me about Islam. I went there, and it took me a couple of days because we had to set up the masjid when I was going to make my shahada. During that time, while I was over at her place and in between where I was going to revert, I experienced the most pain that I've experienced in my life. I was really ill. I had no energy. My dreams were the worst I've ever experienced. At one point she walked in her room and she looked down at me and she was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna go pray," because she could just sense how bad it was for me. Alhamdulillah, I reverted, and as soon as I reverted, when I made my shahada, all of that went away. I'm not going to say that it's been easy. It's been quite a hard journey for me, but I found Islam, and I'm sticking on this path. Making this video just so that any viewers out there know, and even people who are born into the religion know, that being a revert is not exactly the easiest thing. We do experience our hardships, even though we just reverted and all of our sins are washed away. It's a hard struggle for us also. I've talked to many reverts and it doesn't come easy for us. And just one piece of advice is just to get involved with the Ummah, just because when you have fellow Muslims around you who are striving for the same thing, they will inspire you and they will help you, and you have to really be careful where you get your information from as a revert, especially just because you don't know what's out there. It can be a very dangerous road for us. We can get one piece of information and go down the wrong path completely. So please, 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 if any reverts out there, anyone who wants information, please contact me and I can give you some credible sources on whatever, because it's tough. It's not easy, and we all want to go to the same place. We're all striving for the same goal, so to say. So thank you for everything. This is my new channel, and about once a week about controversial topics and things that I think that should be talked about and no one is really talking about. But until then, be safe, everyone.